What else is out? Okay, so if you thought, when we were talking about Eric, as I said, Eric is one of those things that shouldn't work, but does. Here is an example of a film that is exactly in that particular area. This is The Beast, which is a science fiction, romance, drama, thriller, and that doesn't even begin to scrape the surface of it. If you remember, the first time this came up was when we were interviewing George Mackay, gorgeous George Mackay, about Femme. And you asked him what he's done since, and he said that he'd made a film with Bertrand Bonello. And I think we asked him to describe it, and he said it's indescribable. So, written and directed by Bonello, whose directorial CV in the past includes House of Tolerance, The Pornographer. I mean, neither of which I have liked. So I have to say, although he has done some acclaimed work, it's not like, okay, it's a Bonello film, I'm going to like it. It takes inspiration from a Henry James story, The Beast in the Jungle, which is a story about a man gripped with a premonition of catastrophe. That is the beast of the story. That effectively prevents him from finding happiness with the woman he loves and who you can see loves him. And of course, the great catastrophe is that he is prevented from finding this thing. So it's almost about kind of the self-fulfilling prophecy. So here we have two characters played by George Mackay, Léa Seydoux. Their paths cross across the ages, and the story crucially inverts the phobia about catastrophe. It inverts the characters. So, in the near future, human emotions are shunned. AI is doing all the work. People need to clear themselves of thoughts so they can get on better with their jobs. These two characters meet at a facility that provides a DNA purification process by revisiting your past lives and expunging them. And the woman character wants to do this to become more efficient and to get a better job. And she meets the character played by George Mackay, and he appears to be in the same process. And then we are taken back through their past lives. And in one past life, they're in France, 1910, I think. They meet at a party, recall having met before, and talk about that premonition of impending catastrophe. Here's a clip.
Do you still have the same feeling then?
What did I say? Exactly.
You talked about something you felt when you were very young. Something deep inside of you. A feeling of doom. That a strange, rare and terrible thing would befall you sooner or later. You were convinced that it would eventually strike and obliterate you. And I think that was the actual word you used. Obliterate.
So that's like a period drama. Then there's another story which takes place in America, in 21st century America. This time, the woman is an actress and a model, and the man is an incel. He's one of those guys who posts videos online about his growing frustrations and hatred with women because of the fact that, that they aren't paying him attention, and he is stalking her. And then in 2044, they're both visiting this purification clinic, but they're starting to doubt the process because, again, there seems to be some connection between them. So, look, it's ambitious, it's audacious, it's preposterous, and it shouldn't work. There are two films that came to mind when I was watching them. One of them was Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain, in which Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz play these characters who were bonded by love across time. Film absolutely bombed. The other one was Bill Forsyth's Being Human, which traces a single soul played by Robin Williams from caveman times through ancient Rome, Renaissance, modern-day New York. Absolutely bombed. And I asked Bill Forsyth once, why do you think that film didn't work? And he said, I should have written a poem. And whilst I was watching The Beast, there were times at the beginning that I thought, you should have written a poem. But the thing that's really impressive is, against any rhyme or reason, it works. And I was growingly astonished by the fact that it did. There's an interview with Bonello in which he said, my desire was to interweave the intimate and the spectacular, classicism and modernity, the known and the unknown. And he does that. But he also manages to create a very convincing tale of love being variously expressed or repressed or crushed or twisted due to each particular period. Léa Seydoux is great. George Mackay, who took over, I think the role was originally written for Gaspar Ulliel, is astonishing. what you think it's about is a matter of interpretation. There was another thing with Bonello said, the film can be summed up very simply. And his summation was, in a time when artificial intelligence has solved all of humanity's problems, an intelligent woman has to make a choice between finding an interesting job or keeping her emotions. You go, okay, well, on one level, you could reduce it to that. I think it's much more about the way that behind every fear is a wish. You know, that whole psychological thing that the thing you fear is also a wish. That fearing something brings it into existence. Also, it's a story in which the persistence of love, which is a romantic ideal, is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, perhaps a future in which we don't have all those things makes more sense. I mean, there's stuff about living dolls. There's a weird section of them going to this retro disco. There's an earthquake that put me in mind of Robert Altman's Shortcuts. And I kept looking at it thinking, this should not work. But it got inside me, and it's 2.5 hours long. And by the time I got to the end of it, I genuinely stumbled out into the street thinking, wow. And I don't know why it affected me quite as profoundly as it did, and I can imagine somebody losing patience with it. But I thought it was really something. I guarantee you this, you will not see another film like it this year. And I think it's really interesting that in this one show, we've had Eric and the Beast. They could not be more different. One of them's television, one of them's film, one of them's 6-part, one of them's 2.5-hour film. Both of them are perfect examples of they should not work. And the fact that they do makes them all the more impressive.